And that is one of my fears, one of my concerns is, God forbid, if I were to develop some kind of illness, you could be the most perfect driver in the world and only go out in the middle of the day and still get into an accident. And people forget that how close the Philippines is to the equator of the Earth, which means the sun is even more intense. Hey YouTube, Kevin here. It is the end of another warm but beautiful day here in Savannah. And I thought I'd come outside to the backyard again and record this video for you. And this time I got smart though. Instead of just standing out in the backyard getting attacked by bugs, I remembered that I have a screened-in porch. A screened-in patio. And so in your face, bugs. You can't get me now. But yeah, hoping to catch that a little bit of the sunset here behind me. And the topic for my video today is actually something that, I don't know, for me is a little bit different. I'm usually always really positive when I talk about the Philippines. And, oh, there's the cicadas. Can you hear them? I usually have a positive outlook when I talk about my stories in the Philippines, things that happen to me. If you've been watching any of my other videos, I'm not the kind of channel that, dwells in the negativity and the fear and things like that. But if I'm realistic and honest about what life is like living in the Philippines, there are some things that I worry about, some things that I am afraid of. And so this is just some of those things, and in no particular order. I live there, and I'm not a young man anymore. I'm not in my 20s, but I'm also not super old yet either. I'm not in my 70s, so I'm really in the middle of my life, but it doesn't mean that I can't get sick or something could happen to my health. And that is one of my fears, one of my concerns is, God forbid, if I were to develop some kind of illness or need a surgery or something while I'm there, can I trust the system in place there, the hospitals, the doctors, and I don't want to, again, disparage anyone or say that they're inferior or something, but if I needed like a major surgery or some serious health care, I really would want to go back to Manila, or some expats even advise you to go to another country like Thailand or something to have that done. So it's something that I worry about. Again, staying positive, I just try to trust that. Well, first of all, I'm always trusting that the Lord is going to be looking out for me and taking care of me. And he's looking after you as well. But that doesn't mean that he can't use the steady hand of a doctor every now and then to take us through a delicate surgery or something. So I guess my hope is that if something like that is needed, that I will find the right hospital and the right doctor, and I can get that done in the Philippines. If it's something that can be delayed or postponed or dealt with, I'll probably go back to the U.S. and have something done there. So, I did go through an experience of watching a friend of mine pass away, and that was Mark Thornton. And he had a wonderful channel called Every Man Has a Story, and I was interviewed several times on his channel, as a matter of fact, and I miss Mark a lot. But I was there when he had his stroke, and I was in Dumaguete, and saw till the end of his life. And again, I don't want to say anything disparaging or bad about the hospitals and the doctors in Dumaguete, but I wondered, after we lost Mark, could something else have been done or handled better if he was back in the U.S., because he was an American. And so yeah, it is something that I think about. I want to stay as healthy and happy for as long as I can, and hopefully I will. Wow, the cicadas are really coming out now. It's late in the evening, and the sun is supposed to be setting behind me. I think it's stuck in the clouds somewhere. But the next one I was going to talk about, something that I'm afraid of, if I'm honest, and that is getting into a vehicle accident. I don't have a car or a truck right now in Dumaguete, but I do have scooters, little motorcycles. And it doesn't matter how well you drive. You could be the most perfect driver in the world and only go out in the middle of the day when the sun is shining and there's no rain and it's clear conditions, and and still get into an accident. And that's something that has always been in the back of my mind ever since I got one of those scooters. And at some point you just have to live your life, and there's nothing you can do, right? Again, I could be in a car, or I could be on anything. I could be on a bus. I could be on a ship going between islands and it sinks. God forbid. But yeah, when you're on a scooter, though, a motorcycle, and you get into an accident with something bigger than you, it can really be devastating. And so that's something that I worry about. And so I think at some point, if there was a solution, is at some point I'm going to upgrade to some kind of vehicle, hopefully a little truck or something. Here in the U.S., I have an F-150, so I feel like I'm protected by like this big truck all around me, and I don't feel as vulnerable. But that is going to be something that has to happen later rather than sooner. All right, another concern I have, or a fear I have sometimes when I'm living in the Philippines, is all the sun exposure and the risk of skin cancers or melanomas for people like me who are fair-skinned. We don't usually do that well out in the sun. For people like me who are kind of fair-skinned, European background, our skin doesn't always do the best under the harsh Filipino sun. And people forget that how close the Philippines is to the equator of the earth, which means the sun is even more intense and it just beats down. And it can be devastating if you're not covering up your skin and using sunscreens and things like that. I happen to believe that sunshine is good for you, right? It helps our bodies make vitamin D, and it has other amazing properties. It's healthy to get a little bit of sun, but of course we never want to get burned. And if you watched one of my older videos, I think it was the one where I was talking about almost being shot. I filmed it at night, but you can look at my face and my neck, and I'm super red because we had gone out to somewhere that day, the beach or something, and I didn't put enough sunscreen on. Anyway, so again, thankfully, so far, so good. And part of it is genetics. I mean, when I was growing up, we had a fellow missionary, a friend of our family, and he had a Scandinavian background in his DNA. And his name was Jim. And Jim was out there in the Philippines with his family, and we were friends. And my sister and I knew their kids. And anyway, one day Jim got skin cancer, and he battled that for a while, and eventually it took his life. And, he just couldn't come back from it, and we had to say goodbye. And it was really sad. And I think he got it when he was there in the Philippines. So that is a fear of mine, and I try to put on sunscreen, and, Angie, my girlfriend, bugs me about it sometimes. But one of the things I realize that I'm lazy about with sunscreen is getting on the scooter, the motor, and just going for a quick errand, and then that quick errand ends up being, now you're in traffic, or this happened or that happened. And I always end up getting more sun exposure than I planned. So I really have to force myself to put on the sunscreen. But usually I'm pretty good about it, especially if I'm going to the beach or something like that. All right, another fear I have, a valid fear, is natural disasters. And those can happen anywhere. Earthquakes, volcanoes, typhoons, or here in the U.S. we call them hurricanes. But it is a fear of mine when I'm living in the Philippines, because earthquakes are way more common there than they are in Savannah. We have an active volcano on the island of Negros called Canlaon, and it'll spew out ashes and stuff every once in a while. Taal volcano on Luzon is also active and periodically showers the nearby Batangas with ashes. And in fact, I made a video about hiking to Lake Taal, the lake inside the island in the lake, and being able to swim inside the crater lake. Well, now you can't even go there. I think it's like forbidden because they're so worried that Taal is going to explode. All right, siren's gone. Oh, cicadas are done. They'll be back. In 2016, there was a really bad hurricane in Savannah, and I was here for that. It was called Hurricane Matthew, and people died. Trees fell down, crushed people's homes, and it was bad. But 2 years before that, there was a really bad typhoon that hit the area of Leyte, and it was called Typhoon Yolanda or Haiyan. And I was in the Philippines shortly after that hurricane left with a relief organization, and we were documenting the recovery of how they were rebuilding in Tacloban. And it was bad. I've never forgotten that. It's been 11 years, and the devastation was just horrific. And so sometimes when I'm in the Philippines, I do wonder, like, gosh, like, could another typhoon hit? Now, thankfully, Dumaguete and Negros are in an area where, for some reason, the typhoons rarely land. And so I think they normally just get outer bands of whatever storm system might be going through. But thankfully, they don't get as hard hit as other places in the Philippines. But yeah, typhoons, earthquakes, volcanoes, just any number of things is a concern. There's also flooding. Flooding can happen. Again, some places are more prone to bad flooding than others, but that's another one of those disasters that is on the list. All right, and just one more. I put this on there because something happened in Dumaguete not too long ago, and it was kind of like a scam. It was a financial scam. So financial scams or dealing with corruption or dealings with money can sometimes be something that I'm afraid of or fearful of. And you hear about it all the time, it seems like, someone getting scammed over a small amount of money, but sometimes it's a large amount of money. For example, building a home or buying land or starting a company. And you hear all these stories over the years, over time, about how someone was swindled out of money or scammed out of their money. And I think in general, if you're careful and you just have a little bit of street smarts and you really do your due diligence, you can kind of dodge a lot of those. But you can also just be a victim no matter how smart you are or how smart you think you are. And in my case, I won't go into details, but when I was in Dumaguete, I was at one point talking with a builder who I learned later ended up being a scammer. And so I very narrowly missed getting involved with this builder. And I'm so glad that I didn't. I like to think that, the Lord was looking out for me because, had I sunk a bunch of money into a building project, I might have lost it. And there are other vloggers out there who can tell you their story and their tale in more detail, and they're a lot more open about it. Again, I didn't have anything happen to me, but it is one of my fears going forward. Again, hopefully, Lord willing, it'll be smooth sailing for me. But you know what? Having that event happen, the sort of like Dumaguete expat home building scam thing happen, definitely helped make me be more cautious and be more aware. And it reminded me to be very careful when investing a large amount of money in anything, be it land or a building project or something like that. So that's going to do it, guys. Just a couple points of things that I'm fearful of when I'm in the Philippines. Again, I feel like it's good to be honest about stuff like this. It isn't always rosy. It isn't always perfect. And I would never want to give you that impression. If you're watching this video, you might be one of those guys who is considering moving to the Philippines and you stumbled onto this video. And I'll be honest and tell you, I love it there. I love the people. I love the country. My heart really is there in the Philippines. I want to retire there full time someday, but it doesn't mean I don't have fears and concerns. All right, thank you. If you found this video helpful, please do me a favor, give it a like. It really helps my channel continue to grow. And let's see, comment. You can leave a comment. What's something that you, as a foreigner, or even if you are a Filipino and you're watching this, what's something that you are concerned about or even fearful about living in the Philippines? And maybe it's one of the 5 things I mentioned, but maybe it's something else. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And keep it positive, guys. Let's not get too negative. All right, I will leave it there. The cicadas are raging now, messing up my sound. But I'll say thank you for watching this video. I will say bye and mabuhay.